Hello, everyone. We're TGSA. Um, Everyone in the black polo shirts. I don't know if you can see us. We're the Tribal Gaming Student Association, and we educate students and the community about how gaming is a form of economic development and nation building for tribes, and the different aspects that that tribes have and use gaming for. Right now we have our guest speaker, Mark Funkhouser, who's the head of sustainability and waste management for the Chumash tribe. And I'm going to pass it on to Serena Montano, my vice president, to talk a little bit about our speaker series.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. Hi, everyone. My name is Serena, Vice President for TGSA here. And this speaker series is one of 7 we're doing this semester. Essentially, we're trying to accomplish a lot of those goals that Joey mentioned by bringing in professionals within tribal gaming with different experience and a lot of different avenues. So we've gotten to talk to some really cool people so far that you can look at on our program. And able to attend 3 out of the 7 events that we're putting on, then you'll be able to earn a certificate in tribal gaming from SDS and the Saquon Institute. So if this is something that you're interested in learning more about, potentially going down a career path later on, then I would definitely say try to check out some more of our events because they're always really informative and we have a lot of cool speakers. Our Instagram is kind of the best way to figure that out. And going forward today, I just also want to note that we will be recording this. So if you would like to refer back to it at any point, feel free to reach out to us. You can DM us on Instagram. And also, if you would like to ask questions throughout our event today, then feel free to message any one of the officers. We all have our titles in our names. So that's me, Joey, Zachary, and Gregory. So if you have any questions for Mark here, we will definitely be able to ask him those as well. So we love participation if you guys have questions. All right, Joey.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming. We've been so excited to talk about, the Zero Waste Casino. We're just, we have so many questions, but if you want to give a little introduction, that would be great.
Okay. So my name is Mark Funkhouser. I'm director of the sustainability and custodial services at the casino. So I'm in charge of all front of house cleaning, including all the hotels, offsite and onsite. And so what happens is basically my team will go through the whole entire property and they'll be disinfecting, they'll be cleaning, and then where do you put all the trash? So at most properties other than us, it just all goes into a big old, either a trash compactor or a kind of a open 30-yard bin, and it just goes to a landfill. And that's kind of what we're trying to change. We're kind of trying to change the mentality of just throwing it into the trash can. So that's kind of what we are as a whole, and that's kind of our thought process. And we love kind of outreaching to, especially younger people that are kind of next in line to kind of come and kind of push this kind of agenda kind of further. So we pressed it pretty far. I'll kind of describe some of the stuff later on, how we are zero waste. And I think there's, with a lot more new ideas coming down the road, I think it's going to be a pretty cool kind of a business to get into.
Mark, I just had one question. So what kind of made you get into working with the tribes and kind of helping them with their, sustainability practices?
So I'm actually part of the facility team, the facility department. So facilities are basically all back of house. Front of house, where we're taking care of all the fixtures, the buildings, anything that basically encompasses the gaming operation. There are items that no one wants to deal with, and those things kind of trickle down to kind of me and my team. And so that's kind of how we got involved in into the waste reduction kind of as a whole. So if you go all the way back to the very beginning, I got this project back in 2005. They gave it to me, and we were dealing with 7 million pounds of trash coming through the property. And what do you do with it? At that time, we were recycling 3% of the waste stream through one of our local vendors. And my boss said, I have no idea how we're going to do it, but we need to kind of figure out some type of waste reduction, or we need to do something. We need to stop paying so much for trash. It's kind of what's the mandate. And so, but nobody knew what to do. So it was kind of one of those things that it was where do you start? And so that's kind of how it all began many years ago. So
sorry.
Go for it. What do you got?
Oh no, I was just going to ask. So at what point exactly, for everyone in attendance, did you guys reach the 0 point? So the point at which you were completely sustainable, and that was then recognized by the EPA.
Yes. So our definition of zero waste, which is also ZWIA's and USGBC, is basically 90% of your waste stream is going to be recycled. So you're never going to be perfectly at zero, because you're always going to have some type of waste with your systems. So we accomplished zero waste back in 2000, at the beginning of 2019. We got to 90.5%. Our total waste stream was 3.1 million. 3.1 million pounds a year, and out of that, 90% was definitely recycled. This year, so we just entered our EPA's numbers for 2020, and we're at 93%. So pretty cool.
So I know Chumash won an award for zero waste. Could you tell me a little bit about that award and what that means?
So which award? Which one are you talking about?
I think it's specifically called the Zero Waste Award.
From True, I believe it's the one we read about was from the True Zero Waste.
Okay, cool. So True is something that, so back in 2000, it's kind of exciting because True is basically, they never meant for a hospitality team to actually win this. And so back in 2014, we came up with this crazy goal. Hey, if this winery and this beer production place can do it, why can't we do it? So we gave ourselves a 5-year kind of a window, and it was really cool because we saw the finish line like a couple years early. We said, all right, cool. We got to 2015, and we're like, you know what? We're gonna get zero waste within the next year. And then the funny thing about casinos is that they change. The environment changes all the time. So casinos will flex depending on where what their clientele wants. So our clientele wanted more rooms, and they wanted more slot machines. And so in 2016, we started on the big goal of creating this huge 12-story building onto our property. So in most people's minds, most people would say, zero waste is never going to be achieved after this. We basically tripled the size of our property, and how do you deal with that? And it's the whole concept of how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time. That's kind of what we kept on kind of preaching to the team is it's not going to be easy, but what are you going to do first? You're going to kind of figure out what is your waste stream. And so as long as you know your waste stream, you can accomplish so much. But that means that you're going to have to get dirty. And you know, if you don't want to get dirty, this is like the wrong business to be in. Everything back of house and the facilities team, that's what we do. We get dirty, and we try to get to the bottom of things, trying to make things really more sustainable, and everything that we do on our team has an ROI. So a facility department is basically, we don't have a product we give. We just make sure that the product that we're given, the building, doesn't fall apart. So whenever we go and say, hey, we want some money to go do this or this, we have to have a very specific plan to kind of accomplish that. So when our big old facility was built, and we said, you know, we think we could still achieve zero waste by 2019, but we need this type of capital. We had to prove that, you know, if we purchased certain things, we would make the process easier, or it was going to cut back on labor. There was a lot of cool things that we kind of analyzed, and you have to kind of think with your engineer hat on. You can't just kind of ask your waste hauler, hey, what do you guys think about this? Because your waste hauler, they're in the business of throwing away trash, and so they don't even call it a waste stream; they call it trash. So that's something that needs to change as well, because everything that's inside your waste stream is put there by you. So if you purchased it, you should figure out a way to get rid of it or buy it back as a different product. And so a lot of our systems that we have created at the casino, at the Shumash, it's something that where we've either, you know, talked to our vendor and said, hey, that's cool, we'll buy your polystyrene, your styrofoam cups, but what are you going to do to make sure that product doesn't go into the landfill? So we do that with all of our big our waste streams at the casino. And if you sit down with a vendor and say, hey, we're not going to let you do business here unless you figure out a way to recycle it, I guarantee you, if you're a big enough property, they'll do whatever they need to do to make sure that item is recycled. And you can kind of, we've even got it down to like cigarette butts. You know, who recycles cigarette butts? And you know, if I was to ask you guys, you know, is styrofoam recyclable? Most people would say no way. If I said, hey, is a cigarette butt recyclable? No way. There's people out there that specifically do each waste stream. You have to just go find it. The cigarettes, I found the cigarette recycling people. They were primarily for the Boy Scouts. They would actually pay the Boy Scouts $1 per pound, and they would go through California beaches and collect cigarette butts and send them back to them. And so when I contacted them, I said, hey, I would like a pound for our cigarette butts. And we started talking, and we created a nice little business venture, and the return on investment was almost immediate. It took a waste stream that was basically contaminating our product, and it made it into an item that we were able to ship in UPS. There's a whole entire long story about that whole program, how it started, but yeah, it's just you have to come up with very creative ways to kind of deal with your waste stream. And it doesn't take a long time because there are things that you're gonna have to go think about. So you'll have to. It's something that may take a month, may take a couple months, may take a year. But if as long as you're thinking about that particular waste stream, I think a lot more ideas are going to start flowing from your team, and you have to investigate all of the different ideas because, you know, some of the items that we investigated were like, well, we looked at it. Here's the cost. There's no return on investment. But here's years later. Remember that one thing that we investigated for this? Hey, this might work for this. So that's kind of how we definitely like ideas. And if you're one of those people that say, "Oh, those guys never choose my ideas," still get them out there because we once they're in our heads, we don't forget about them. We do all the investigation, and as long as we have the ideas there, it might not work for that, but it might work for something down the road. Who knows? But if you just stay silent, you know, nothing's going to change. So yeah, so that's a big piece is like in the casino industry, there's so many pieces going at once. Make sure your idea is out there. So at least they're on the table. So in the future, if it's not used now, it'll definitely be used later.
Yeah. Mark, speaking on that, I wonder, with your experience looking at how to reduce waste output, a lot of it is individual and being able to talk to suppliers and kind of looking at the whole chain. So kind of with your experience, do you see that as being something that's scalable to other facilities, like maybe other tribes, other casinos, and beyond the tribal gaming world? Is it something that you think realistically these processes can be put into place in other businesses, or is it something that needs to be kind of a concerted effort, maybe from the top down, that's the company willing to kind of put their name on the line and say, this is what we're going to be doing, and have people creatively working? Like, is it very individualistic to the business, or there's some common thing that could be implemented to do a lot of good?
So that's a good question. So it's kind of a multi-faceted piece there because every property is different. But like the core of what you're trying to do is you're basically trying to get people to rethink their purchasing, how they purchase. So instead of purchasing this piece over here that is kind of a harder piece, so polystyrene, you know, styrofoam, it's for most properties, you know, 99% of the properties out there, they're not going to know what to do with it. I know in San Diego, they actually have a similar system to what we have at the Shumash. But most properties out there will not have something like that actually densifies and gets it ready to go. But like the core pieces, like what we do at the casino is we have, this is like, if you do nothing else at your property, we have color-coded trash bags. This is the core piece that drives our whole entire program. We have clear bags that are inside our food outlets, and then we have blue bags on the gaming floor next to like the bars. We have black bags in the centerpiece. We have gray bags in the exterior. We have a white color bag in the restrooms. And basically, as soon as I see a color bag, I know what's going to be in each one of the bags because I know what's producing in that area. So that piece was scalable to every single one of the businesses that the Shumash owns. So we have that same system at our gas stations, at our offsite hotels. We have it at our office center where they hire people. So that piece, if you can get one piece working for your team, and that all has to be coordinated with your waste hauler as well. if your waste hauler is not on board and they're just a trash guy, you need to get a new waste hauler. So that's pretty much it. But you know, we've been, before kind of everything shut down, we were actually we created an association where we actually go to other casinos and other Native American properties, and we kind of, we'll walk around with them, and we include other people, other facilities in that area, and we kind of just walk the properties with them, and we give each other ideas, and it's really cool. It's kind of a big think tank of we're trying to meld the environmental teams that are typically housed at like at a tribe. We're trying to meld that with the facility team, because typically those two departments, they do not talk to each other, and yeah, it's kind of interesting because the environmental team, they have really good ideas. A lot of them are kind of textbook ideas, so they're not going to necessarily work at a facility. And the facility guys are all just basically, you know, they're mechanics and they're painters and they're, you know, they're going to immediately tell you that it's not going to work. And, you know, so the people get frustrated because they don't speak the same language. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of get those two teams on the same page, because they really need to work with each other, because there's a return on investment there. There's money to be made for the facility department, and there's really good environmental things that could happen for the environmental team. So it's that's kind of, that is my goal, is to is to try to get as many teams cooperating as possible, and it's doable. It's just it's a lot of work. So the core piece is there. Yes, there's lots of cool ideas, but you have to kind of shape it towards your own property, and the only people that know your property is typically the people that are back of house facility guys. They know ins and outs. You just have to kind of get them on board, buy them a free pizza or something.
I'm really glad you mentioned melding those two communities together, Mark, because in preparation of this talk, I kind of thought back to some of my classes in the past, and I myself am an econ major. So I guess like I'm a little bit more like methodical and like analytical, I guess. And I've taken some like sustainability classes and things like that. And like you said, it's a lot of really good ideas, and it's a lot of really good like mindset, and it's the attitude. And I think, like you said, the biggest problem is bridging that with both the mechanical side of it, you know, the tangible side of it, as well as the business side of it, because you need both of those parties to participate. So I guess my question would be, what have you done personally to bridge both like business heads along with the environmental heads, along with the you know, mechanics and things of that nature? Because not everyone speaks in terms of dollars, right? Like some people are going to want to hear the lasting environmental improvements. Some people do want to hear about the dollars. Some people want practicality and simplicity. You know, they don't want a complex system where they have to send it to this guy and this guy and this guy just to get a small dollar back. So I guess, what have you done personally? Like, what are some of the different things you've done?
So I've done, we've done many projects. So
pizza parties.
Yeah, we do. So it's rough because you know, if you kind of have to meet in the middle. So like, because like the environmental guys are like you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. You should like for the polystyrene program, they're like, yeah, that's wonderful that you've closed the loop on it, and that's wonderful that you buy picture frames made out of the same cups that you use on the floor. That's awesome, but you should get rid of them. So you should get rid of the polystyrene cups. So it's like, okay, let's talk about that. So now the return on investment is basically, I'm gonna go tell my purchasing agent to go buy 1 million cups that are paper, that are going to be they're biodegradable, but they're going to cost probably about 3 times more of the money. So you have to meet in the middle. You kind of have to, okay, fine, your ultimate goal is to get rid of polystyrene. Wonderful. Let's make a 5-year plan out of it. Let's kind of prepare the people that are actually paying the bills, for that kind of piece. Or if you get enough people to kind of do, green environmental recycling stuff, you're going to drive the price of these cups down. So you have to go out there and preach that there's a way to get to zero waste. There's all these cool different steps. You don't have to be like the shoe mash. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. But it is a tightrope walking kind of a thing to kind of get to make sure that everybody's happy. At the end of the day, even what I do, I always lean towards the facility end, because I know if our building isn't functioning 100%, everything else kind of falls apart. So there are things that we put in our back pocket that I would love to spend, $300,000 on a compost machine that basically, dehydrates all your food and all that stuff. But I could use that same $300,000 and make sure that our HVAC system is running perfectly so that you're saving money. So there's lots of give and take in a casino world. You have to kind of prioritize, what your ownership, what they kind of envision. At the end of the day, they're the ones that own the business, and you have to kind of pitch your ideas to them. Every October, we basically have budget meetings, and those are the time where you say, the tribe wants this, I want this, I think we can make it work with XYZ. But you have to bring all your goods to the table. You have to make sure you know what the labor costs are, what the install costs are, what the environmental impacts are going to be. One simple little, machine that I want from Canada, it's going to have huge environmental impacts, and you have to make sure you know them all. And you're going to have to kind of figure out how you're going to deal with each piece. So pretty much everything we do, we have to have that little, talk, the little give and take. It's kind of it's basically you're married with all these other departments, and you have to make sure, everybody is getting something out of the deal. And if you're not giving them a good deal now, you're going to kind of set them up on a later date for success. But yeah, I hope did I answer your question?
Yeah, that was good. It's a pretty open-ended question. It's pretty broad. How do you get people to work together, right?
Yeah, exactly. How do you get people to work together?
It's really interesting to me, because it feels like, I like to think at the end of the day, we all have similar goals in mind. And it's like, everybody wants the environment to do well. We all want to make a little bit of money. We all want things to be simple and work correctly. We want the AC to run properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you answered it. It's difficult. It's difficult to work with people.
It's interesting because so when you get to a position where I'm at, you're dealing with old school people that are really stubborn, and you have to kind of have to figure out ways to make them happy. And so I'm kind of right in the middle, where I was trained by people like this, so I understand where they're going. But then you have these younger guys that are coming behind me that they have really cool ideas. And so how do you mesh all this information together? it's not always easy. And so it's definitely, you kind of have to kind of play good cop, bad cop, and kind of figure out, what makes sense now, what makes sense with the budgets. Like last year, we had to kind of chop lots of stuff because of the pandemic. And you kind of have to say, we'll revisit this when we have, more guests coming through our doors, and you have to be able to give and take. There were some people that say, nope, it's on my budget, I get to spend it. You could do that, but that's, in the long run, if your career is in this casino industry, that's not the way you want to be. You need to kind of give and take so you can kind of lay the road work for the future. And especially kind of what we do, we have to do lots of bartering to kind of make it work.
Dang, man, that sounds like a great deal of effort, but it definitely feels, I imagine it feels rewarding. But I want to take this opportunity to just host a question from Isabel. So Isabel's asking, what is your opinion on why more businesses aren't moving towards sustainability and recycling? And if you think that's, whether it's because of the initial costs or a lack of ROI that could take some time to reach?
So in some situations, it's lack of, I think it's lack of knowledge. Because I think if you guys all came to visit kind of what we do here, you look at what we do and it's like, it's so simple, but the people that a lot of people are relying on is their waste hauler. Their waste hauler is telling them, oh no, you don't do it this way, you do it this way. So for a waste hauler, it's all about money. If the more trash they're hauling, the more money they can charge you. So it's kind of, we have to change old ideas and kind of push for new ideas. I don't know if you guys kind of follow this industry, but in California, there's a Senate bill, I think it's 1833, or it's coming down the road. It was put out there like in 2016, and it's going to basically force businesses to be recycling their food. So I think it's a must, because I don't think people are if human beings are going to take the easy route, and what we do, like for our program to get it started, it was a lot of like for me, it was a lot of trial and error. The people that come and talk to me, was like, we give all this information for free. We don't hold on to it. It's free. Just come talk to me. But like we don't think people should reinvent the wheel, just because if we get our ideas out there, we believe that it'll make our life a lot easier, because I think there'll be new ideas kind of generated off of our ideas. And that's kind of our big push. That's why we like talking to the younger generation, because I think there's a lot of good ideas coming up. And but I think for the old generation, we have to have these Senate bills that kind of push the idea around. And I think by 2022, I think all restaurants in California have to be at 75% food recycling, which is pretty cool.
Definitely, Mark. I mean, that's so awesome. I mean, really, Chumash is like at the forefront, of leading tribes and their casinos to be more sustainable and have zero waste. One thing I wanted to ask you was, your efforts to start the Native American Sustainable Facilities Association, and kind of, how we can get all the casinos, to be sustainable and make everything, green. I just would love to hear your view and a little bit of information about that.
Yeah, so that association is kind of, that is really cool. That this association is the one that kind of focuses on environmental teams and kind of facility teams and basically anybody in between that kind of wants to talk about sustainability. We created it specifically for that, to kind of, we do 3 meetings a year on a typical year. And what we do is we basically come to one of the casinos will host it, and we'll just do a 1-day thing. In the morning, we'll have like topics ranging from solar to what type of carpet do you put on the floor, and because all these things will affect everything. Carpet's your main filter in your whole entire casino. I don't know if you know that, but if you kind of a nerdy facility thing, but yeah, carpet is huge, and like especially carpet in a smoking facility. If you don't have a wool blended material, you're gonna have a bunch of black spots all over your carpet. It's not gonna look good. What that means is you're gonna throw it away. So every 3 years, before I started these programs, we threw away our carpet every 3 years. And that was just the norm. Actually, it still is the norm in our industry. So we're trying to kind of tell people, spend twice as much right now, buy the good wool blended carpet, you'll have less to throw away, and your carpet's gonna last like 10 years. So that's the kind of stuff we're trying to show people, and the return on investment is immediate at that point, because as soon as you hit 3 years, you're making money off of your carpet. So yeah, so I think people just have to think different. And me being from facilities, we think very weird things. We don't think like normal textbook stuff. We see everything, and we kind of gauge it with our guests, and we come up with some pretty cool outside of the box items, and that's kind of where we vent all this stuff to our association. And the association has been it's growing. Right now we have 21 casinos that are involved, and I send them out an email once a quarter and kind of make sure that everybody's still kicking, and everybody, if anybody has any new ideas, or if they have a new project, we try to send it out in an email form, kind of say, hey, this guy's doing this. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
I wonder if in any kind of collaboration like that, specifically within the last year in response to the COVID pandemic, I noticed as a consumer a lot more single use, those kinds of things that casinos are having to, well as new regulations are and expectations of new sanitary standards. If you've heard anything from your organization, or just practices that you've tried to implement with Chumash in the face of this?
Yes. So strictly from this pandemic, basically you go all to single serving stuff. We luckily were so far ahead of the game that we were prepared for this kind of stuff, this kind of event. So we already had clamshells that were, #1 recyclables, and we already had items that we can already throw into our compost machine. But other people weren't so lucky. so like there's a couple people on our chat where they were panicking because they couldn't buy clamshells quick enough, and they had people that to the point where they had to like close their eateries down because they couldn't kind of conform to the CDC's expectations. So it was definitely a trying period, especially at the first couple of months there, when everybody was closed, and everybody behind doors, like while everybody else was on furlough, there's people like me sitting down my desk trying to figure out, all right, when we open, we have to do this and we have to do this, and there's we're emailing each other trying to figure out what do you do and what is so yeah, so it was really cool to have this association because we kind of were able to kind of amongst facility people and amongst environmental people, we were able to kind of come up with some really cool plans, and yeah, it definitely helped.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a benefit to getting ahead of the environmental question before it's an immediate threat.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny because like a lot of the casinos in Southern California, they actually already cleaned to my protocols that we've created at the Shumash. Number one, they're easy. They're like they cost a little more money, but you can get in and out of sections of the casino really quickly. You're sanitizing, you're in and out. So they use and less labor, because typically in this industry, it's hard to find janitorial staff and keep them. So it's you know, because you have to get them gamed, you have to get them badged, and the people that are here, hold on, sorry about that. Yeah, so some of the people that we need for our industry, they can't get through our gaming process. So yeah, so there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that this kind of a pandemic like this kind of highlights, and it's awesome to be kind of sitting in our position where we're kind of we got hit with we had to close our buffet, and so typically you close down the buffet line, and that kind of would affect the whole entire program, because that's where all of our food waste comes from, and that's kind of our composter lives on our food waste. But we were able to kind of prepare for that. We use the waste paper towels from the restroom. We were able to supplement that into our food composter, so that was an extra pulping agent. It was all kinds of cool ideas that were kind of coming through our emails, and so that's why we were able to kind of come up with I think we were at 93% recycled this year for 2020, and we had 2.7 million pounds of trash. Or the waste stream was 2.7 million pounds. So yeah, it was really cool to be in this position. And so now for 2021, I've already been emailing the association, kind of saying, here's what we did and what are you guys doing, and kind of getting it all back in order. So hopefully we have our next meeting probably in August or so. That's what we're shooting for.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on. I was like, that's really great, you know, that you work alongside the other tribes and kind of collaborating together, because, you know, everyone has something different, you know, and everyone has a different, almost like geographical area, and, you know,
Absolutely.
they have, you know, different needs. And I only can assume like you guys get it's a lot more efficient, you know, working all together than just as individuals.
Yes.
I think it's really, really cool that.
Yeah, and like some of the properties, so some of the properties are, you know, next to highways. Some are next to areas where it's easy to access. So a place like us, we're kind of stuck in the middle of a geographical nightmare, kind of. You're in between all these mountains, and so yeah, you need to kind of pick people's brains and kind of, you know, utilize the best practices that are currently out there, and kind of try to improve on them. And once you improve on them, make sure you share that info, because they helped you get there. So
Definitely, thank you. Yeah.
I was curious if you had any other facilities quick tips, like not quick tips, just what you said about the carpet was really interesting. Like I didn't know that. Do you have anything else like that off the top of your head?
What else? The carpet's cool.
Do the curtains produce oxygen? Or no, I'm joking.
That's funny. No, but like there's all kinds of cool stuff. Like the if you kind of think of what is your bar like the bar at your casino, the local casino, what do they sell? They typically sell like beer in glass bottles.
Yeah.
I think.
So
yeah, typically it's gonna, that's what it typically is gonna be. So if you and just imagine like those things are gonna weigh probably about 5 times heavier than aluminum cans. They also, glass bottles of beer are more expensive than aluminum beer. For the front end, for the purchasing. And then on the back end, you get charged money to throw away your glass bottles, whereas aluminum cans, you get $1.60 a pound. So, so just like stupid little things like that. If you go to the purchasing department and say, hey, you can make money if you change all your beer products to aluminum cans, you'd be a hero, because instead of paying $8,000, you're gonna make like $16,000. And everybody always says, oh, but it's the perception of the guest. Change the perception of the guest. You know, give them little coasters that say, by buying an aluminum beer, you're saving X amount of, you're saving the environment by doing this or by doing this. So it's all about, you know, how you pitch your ideas. When we pitch the ideas of, oh, by the way, we want to buy wool blended carpet from England. It's going to cost 3 times more money. It's going to take 16 extra weeks to get here. And if you want to buy extra, you have to buy it a year in advance, and you have to tell them which code you want. Because so when you put together a casino floor, old school people do it like broadloom, just big old rolls. What most people do nowadays are like 3-foot tiles, and each tile is labeled with a letter. And so when I went to go pitch this idea of, oh yeah, by the way, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. Yeah, it was crickets. Crickets were just like chirping. So you have to stick to your ideas. You have to kind of, you have to be very thorough in gathering your information, because people are not going to understand what you're trying to do, because it's not the norm. And think outside the box. That's the base thing. Is I always tell my team, think outside the box. And then when people go, it's not possible, I said, hey, we didn't think a cigarette could be recycled. So if we can recycle cigarette butts, we can recycle anything. So
I gotta say, I really do admire like facilities and services, just because like of how underappreciated it is. And it's literally, like you said, like it's vital. It holds everything together. Without facilities, like the business cannot run.
Yep.
So, and like I do make the jokes, and like these things are silly on the surface, but like they make a lot of sense, and they are really good ideas. It's just that people kind of like disregard it. They're like, oh, why would I care about the process of trash? Like, well, I don't care where my trash goes, but it matters. It matters so much. And that example with the alcohol, it's like if you just zoom out on the process a little bit and look at you know, from start to finish rather than just a small portion, you can have a much better outcome for everybody. So
absolutely,
I really just admire facilities. I think it's cool. Good awesome mindset to go about things.
Yep. Yeah, we definitely aren't the textbook thinkers. We're kind of look at the big picture. So
Mark, I just wanted to add and say, like, you must find your job, fulfilling because you're, helping the earth. I mean, in so many ways, you're helping people and you're helping the earth, and you're getting to where we want to be as a society. I feel like, I mean, it's cool, and like Zach was saying, it's sometimes underappreciated or underrated, or people don't look at it as much, but it's crucial, to change.
It is. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I love what I do. I love what I do. It's fun. Every day is every day at a casino, no matter where you're at in a casino, it's going to be different. It's just a crazy environment to work. But back of house, we get to see what everybody else is seeing plus more, because we're like, for our property, it's a small property, but we have about 1 million square feet that we take care of. And just the gaming floor is a couple 100,000 square feet. And then we have a big old tower, and we have all this other stuff. So yeah, so it's a pretty cool place to work. It's fun. It's definitely fun. What else?
Well, Mark, I just wanted to say thank you for coming. I know we're getting to that hour mark. Unless anyone else has questions, I think, we just want to say thank you so much for coming, and we learned so much. We really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to jump in with one policy question if we have a minute. Mark, thank you so much for being here. I'm the TGSA faculty advisor, Kate Spildy. And I just wanted to follow up. I'm actually doing a bigger study that started before COVID on smoking policies in tribal casinos. I know several tribes had moved to more non-smoking. Then maybe they were concerned about, slot revenues and the relationship and how to measure, but often they don't consider the third-hand smoke costs, like you said, the damage to carpeting or having to clean the machines, or now, of course, we have COVID with people wearing masks, and just the health impacts on employees and guests. What do you see as the relationship between sort of a smoking policy of a tribal casino and the sustainability costs or savings? Is that in consideration when the tribe is deciding on their smoking policy?
So it's not considered. So it's a funny thing, because if you get rid of cigarettes, our number one issue at the casino as a facility guy is IAQ, indoor air quality. You basically would be putting out a whole entire department of people just by getting rid of cigarettes. Like you're talking high paid guys that are around the clock just because of cigarettes. You're changing filters, you're changing, you're basically cleaning air ducts to get rid of that smell. You're installing fragrances to kind of mask the odors. You're doing all of this just because we're smoking. I remember when I first started working at the casino back in 2003, we got this brand new building, and they said, we're not going to have smoking in our Samala showroom where the bingo is. And everybody's like, if you don't let them smoke in the Samala showroom, we're not going to have anybody show up. And what happened? They opened up the first day, it was sold out. There was a couple people complaining because they couldn't smoke inside, but at the very end of the day, smoking is not the draw. Smoking is something that, okay, I can smoke here, so I'm going to smoke. In fact, a lot of people that smoke there, they don't typically smoke, so they're not smokers. They walk into the building and, I'm gambling, might as well smoke too. So that's kind of the mentality. So yeah, but like for my team, I have just a part of my team, their whole entire job is cleaning the nicotine and the tar off of our machines, and now the plexiglass that we've installed between every single machine. You're talking 74 people just to get rid of, the sticky buildup from cigarettes. Yeah, and cigarettes these days, they don't have that paper filter in them anymore. Back in the day when they had the paper filter, a lot of the tar and stuff would stay inside the cigarette. Now the cigarette butt is made with what is it called? It's called cellulose acetate, like spun plastic. So the spun plastic basically allows pretty much all the nicotine and tar to get out, and so that stuff is in your lungs. You're going to breathe it out. We have more stuff to clean up. So yeah, so it's a messy job to clean up after cigarettes. Yeah, it's not good. So I would definitely be on the side of getting rid of cigarettes. So, but yeah, that's one of those things that everybody's really leery to be the first casino to say no more cigarettes. And there's a couple casinos right now that during this whole entire COVID shutdown, they're not allowing cigarettes right now. And I believe if they stick to their guns and they say, we did well with no cigarettes, let's keep it that way. I think a lot of casinos like us would follow suit. So we'll see. We'll see if the people down in your area, down in San Diego, if they stick to their guns and say, you basically on the operations side, you definitely have less labor to clean up after them. So we'll see what happens.
Hopefully more folks like you can weigh the decision than just the slot manager, people using that one metric as
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more from your group.
Yeah, it's definitely on the facility side and on the environmental side we're both for getting rid of cigarettes. And once again, like I said at the beginning, it's those old school people saying, slot machine revenue is always tied with smoking and drinking. That's not necessarily true.
Mm-mm.
So, but somebody has to make the move first. Nobody wants to be the first guy to make the move. So we'll see what happens.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yep, no problem.
Just want to say thank you again, Mark, for coming and giving us your time. We learned so many new things, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate the information, the dialogue.
Awesome. Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. It was great meeting you.
Nice meeting you guys too.